today's episode, I take a look at the dollar index, cable, Swiss franc JPY and gold, and we also showcase some of the best trades taken in our Discord trading room. Good day traders. I want to start us off by looking at the dollar index, and on the dollar index daily chart I have in front of me, we had this big bullish run, the market reversed, and now we're busy in quite a big and long corrective stage. Now, how this is going to play out, I'm not 100% sure, but I've got a couple of scenarios that I'm waiting for. And one of those scenarios is that we might possibly be forming a bit of a triangle pattern here, in which case, I'm expecting some more downside and maybe some more upside. And then over here, if we get this formation, I might start looking for the shorts to get short on the dollar. However, there's a couple of other scenarios I think that might be a bit more likely. And one of those scenarios, and the main scenario I'm looking at, is potentially this regular flat forming. And again, similar view I'm looking for bearish moves on the dollar. So hopefully we can find some higher prices, and once we clear these highs up to 101, 101.5, perhaps here we'll have the regular flat or the zigzag completing, and then again I will look for the short move. If, however, perhaps we start running to the downside before taking those highs, when we get to these lows, I might actually change my view and look forward to go long this market. And then over here, I'll make the decision, perhaps this is a bit of a shakeout pattern to go short. So depending on how this market develops, that'll dictate how I'm going to trade this. But for now, I'm just waiting to see how this develops. Right, so next up I want to look at pound USD, and on the weekly time frame here, what we can note is that the market had this big resistance level, and the market crashed through this before breaking back above this level. Now there's a couple of scenarios that I'm going to look at. It is quite possible that we're just going to continue lower and take this lows. However, I do think that a bigger correction at the very least is on the cards, and perhaps we can get a back to this first order block, and to clear these highs before eventually maybe then going lower again. Now, just jumping to the 8-hour time frame, we're going to have to again, exactly picking where this is going to turn is not going to be easy. So we're going to just again have to wait for this market to play out. Ideally, what I would like to see is a move back to the 61.8% retrace, which is sort of the first level of resistance that I can find. And if we do get here, we would have filled this void, and perhaps here we can find some price action and then go long, and ideally clear these clean highs. And again, the first resistance I have is this little resistance point over here. So again, I don't know exactly how it's going to get to this level. Perhaps if you're aggressive, you might look for a bit of a retrace to short this market. But right now, this does look bearish to me, and but we'll definitely monitor this one to see if we can find a long setup a bit later in the week. All right, next up, Swiss franc JPY. This was one we did cover a few episodes ago, and it's a bit of a swing setup that I'm waiting for. And this market, after it ran these lows, had the big impulsive move and then the slow grind down to form a bit of a reach around pattern. And I mentioned a few videos ago that I'm looking for a correction over here. And if I see the correction, I'd ideally like to take this long, to take all these clean highs that the market left over here. And this will be quite a few weeks to play out. So a nice little swing trade that we have potentially developing here. And just jumping to the 4-hour time frame, we have the market, making this impulsive move after it ran these lows. And this blue area is the last breaker block that I've marked off. And ideally, what I would like to see is a move back into this level. Now, it could potentially go lower. Obviously, we can't always predict the market. But if I do find my price action in this potential action zone, then hopefully we can find a long setup. And we'll have quite a big reward ratio on this one. So definitely one worth watching. Alright, so the last chart I want to look at is that of gold. Now, on the longer term time frame on gold, gold does look very bullish, but it doesn't move in a straight line. And we're at quite a critical level on gold here. On Friday, we did clear these big highs, and we did have a bit of a reaction on there. And you always need to be awake at these levels. Now, what bothers me about the way gold has been moving up is the fact that it's not been taking liquidity while moving up. And if I can just take a previous example for you guys. A few months ago in gold, again, we were also in this big bullish uptrend. And then when the market cleared these highs, we actually ended up crashing down and going for all those liquidity levels. We had a similar situation when gold started going up over here. It never actually took those liquidity levels, and then eventually we did come crashing down before the market went higher. Now, at the very least, if we do find a correction, I think we could at the very least make a bit of a rising wedge correction. But I do also think that there is the possibility that the market might make a bigger move and eventually take all this liquidity to form either a regular flat or an expanding flat before we're going to go ultimately go higher. And just something really interesting I want to note is after the market cleared these big highs that it printed back in what was this, April 2020. If you look on the 15-minute, we do actually have a bit of a flip zone set up. The market just cleared those highs, had the consolidation, and then we broke down. Now this was late on Friday, and this is going to be more or less at the market open. But if we do have a bit of a retrace here, potentially this could be one to watch early on Monday morning, and potentially you can have a nice entry. And at the very least, play that correction to perhaps fill this void. But ultimately, I'm going to keep my eyes out for a much bigger correction. But anyway, those are my setups, and I'll see you all in the trading room.